Well, y'all seem to enjoy our video ranking of all those modern leader bikes, so I figured if we learned anything from all those Marvel movies, it's that everyone loves a sequel. That's right, another top fastest bikes list, but this time we're looking at the top 7 fastest 600cc super sports. But Yammie, you cry, there were 10 bikes on the last list. Why are there fewer bikes in this video? The sequel's supposed to be bigger and better. Well, there just aren't that many 600s out there. It's almost like making super bikes is more profitable than making super specialized, smaller displacement race bikes. Maybe if all you sport bike simps actually went to the track, you'd realize the 600s are where it's at, and then maybe we'd get some super flashy middleweight sport bikes. But no, you gotta have your 200 horsepower to be a big boy. Yeah, that's right. It's all your fault there aren't that many 600s out there. Are you happy? Anyway, let's talk about some of the rules for today's list. First, we'll only consider motorcycles between 599cc and 699cc's, which means no Ducatis, no 750s, and others. Next, none of these bikes are electronically limited. We can actually use top speed to rank the motorcycles empirically. Oh, and don't forget to stick around until the end because we've got a few honorable mentions that are worth talking about. Now, without further ado, let's dive right into the slowest 600 class motorcycle. The RS660. Oof, that's gonna bruise a handful of egos out there. But don't worry, Aprilia simps, I've got a whole sack full of excuses of what makes this super expensive and super fancy motorcycle so dang slow. First, let's talk numbers. The RS660 is powered by a 659cc 275-degree parallel twin making 100 horsepower and 49 foot-pounds of torque. Excuse number 1, parallel twins just don't produce the crazy top-end punch you get from inline 4s and triples. They're super torquey, sure, but they're mechanically limited in terms of the power they can output. I mean, when's the last time you saw a parallel twin superbike? Excuse over. Now, how fast can the bike go? Well, considering it's the lightest bike on the list at 404 pounds wet and ready to ride, that 100 horsepower can be used to full effect, reaching a respectable 143 miles per hour. Excuse number 2, the bike is slightly limited by its ergonomics package. Sure, you can tuck in, but stock form, you're going to encounter some issues with wind resistance on the rider. The seat height is lower, the bars are higher, and the windscreen is set up for highway miles, not out-and-out top speeds. Does that mean this is a bad track bike? No. Not even remotely. It's an absolute weapon of a motorcycle, and any 600 boy would be proud to own it. In fact, it's got more under the hood than most 600 crazy levels of adjustment. Slide control, wheelie control, power levels, all the goodies can be tuned to your liking, assuming of course you can navigate all those menus. Now, if you're testing top speeds on a 600, my research indicates you're probably doing it on the highway late at night wearing a t-shirt. You'll probably want to make sure you're packing some nice insurance just in case. And guess what? Progressive has your back, and they'll get your busted 600 back on the road with factory parts instead of whatever's lying around in your garage. They'll also pay for $3,000 worth of gear and mods included in your policy, which starts as low as $79. And even if you are just wearing a t-shirt, that's good enough for a Gucci shirt. I mean, you're going to be modding and changing your setup trying to hit 186 miles per hour, which you'll actually never hit, but with a policy that cheap, it means you can tinker to your heart's content. We've all had the bikes in the shop insured through Progressive since before we started working with them, and oh, if you're thinking they paid for our insurance and now we're saying good things about them, they didn't. They're actually not allowed to do that. We pay for our own insurance. Click the link below and get a free quote and see how much money you can save on your policy with Progressive. Number 6 today goes to a truly special motorcycle, but perhaps not a fast one, the Aprilia RS660, the latest middleweight sport bike being made by a European brand, and no, the Daytona 765 doesn't count. Remember our rules. All you fancy boys just don't want to admit to yourself that you're riding around on a super uncomfortable street triple dressed up in fancy carbon fiber bodywork. Oh wait, they bumped it up to 800 cc's. Dang it! I guess no one cares about 600s anymore. Anyways, the RS660 had a, you guessed it, 675cc triple putting down a whopping 128 horsepower and 52 foot-pounds of torque, which makes it the second most powerful bike on the list, second only to the greatest 600 class bike of all time, but more on that later. The F3 tips the scales at 411 pounds, which is pretty dang light, and it can reach a top speed of 150 miles per hour on the nose. This is the bike you get if you're one of those people who needs to be just a little bit different from everyone else. You go out for drinks with your buddies and they all get beers or cocktails, and you get yourself a 10-year-old port. Your friends wear overpriced sneakers, you wear Bruggs. You're the screaming kid in the why can't you just be normal meme. That's right, you're not happy with an Italian supersport. You need to get yourself a discontinued Italian supersport. May your wallet rest in peace. Though let's be honest, you might take it to the track every once in a while, but you mostly just park it out front of that one coffee shop in town that no one goes to. Number 5 is the most powerful motorcycle. One so legendary that I have owned 5 of them. The greatest bike in the world and the only motorcycle worthy of being turned into a race bike, assuming that you have an incredible tolerance for personal suffering, the Triumph Daytona 675R. I could sing this bike's praises all day, but in the interest of not boring everyone, I'll just do it for a minute or two. It's packing the greatest engine ever built, the 675cc Triumph Triple, putting down 128 horsepower and 55 foot-pounds of torgos. But the way it delivers its power is what makes it so juicy. The torque curve is super linear, and the howl of the intake as you spool it all the way to redline, there's nothing better. It also helps that it's only 406 pounds ready to ride, which gives it a substantial bump in power over the RS660 and makes the extra 2 pounds worth it. Who cares that it'll only do 155 miles per hour in stock trim? It's all about the emozione, the character. It's not just any old 600, which, let's face it, they're all basically the same. The Daytona is or was a one-of-a-kind motorcycle. I guess what I'm saying is Triumph just remake the 675 or at least give us a 765 Daytona worth owning. Also, if I had a nickel for every time someone's told me that they ran out and bought a Daytona because of my videos, I'd probably have enough nickels to buy a 6th Daytona. So seriously, Triumph, where is my check? I know you've got my email. We can figure this out. Don't worry. Number 4 is going to go to the world's most basic 600, the Suzuki GSXR600. Yeah, that's right, I said it. The Gixxer is basically what everyone thinks of when they think of the word crotch rocket. Why? Because there's basically an entire subgenre on Live Leak dedicated to Gixxer bros doing dumb stuff on 600s. Suzuki's been printing these out like there's no tomorrow for over 2 decades. Unfortunately for the entire world, they're actually really good motorcycles, but it's the slowest of the big 4 600s, so I'm still going to validate my Suzuki boy self-loathing and take a minute to mercilessly dunk on the Gixxer. It's powered by a 599cc inline-4 that for all intents and purposes is immortal. I have never heard of a Suzuki 600 exploding, but that's because they're putting down a wimpy 125 horsepower and 55 foot-pounds of torques. See, not even enough to match the mighty Daytona, and to all you commenters down there saying that 125 is 97.6% of the power that Daytona produces, I say you've never accepted math before, so why start now? It weighs in at 412 pounds because it won't stop eating Twinkies, and while everyone on Gixxer.com claims the bike can do 186 miles per hour, in the real world it can only do about 157 miles per hour. But yeah, if you change the sprockets, it'll go faster. Yeah, maybe, but you're still never gonna hit 186 miles per hour on your 600. Trust me, your Speedo is lying to you, just like you lie to yourself when you say that you can pull off those flip-flops and socks. Number 3 goes to the world's most dangerous 600, the Honda CBR 600RR. You can't just touch one of these without instantly bursting into flames. If you ride one, you will be maimed. Hondas are just that dangerous. Seriously though, I mean, look at Marky Mark. He can't stop high-siding. The CBR 600RR is so dangerous, Honda is going to be discontinued in the United States to stem the tide of carnage that it has wrought. But seriously, the CBR is a pretty solid bike. It's powered by a 599cc inline-4, putting down 118 horsepower and 49 foot-pounds of torque, and it's got that super cool looking paint scheme from the Fireblade, but not as good because they ran out of all that special iridescent blue. It's also the only 600 with the single undertail exhaust, which does it do anything for the bike? No, but it does look cooler. Or maybe it does, because the bike can get its 410-pound self up to 160 miles per hour, which is exactly as fast as it needs to go to make all those Gixxer squids out there regret their life choices. Just kidding, they have no shame. Trust me, I unironically own 2 Suzukis. In case you forgot, it's the baby Gixxer and the Hayabusa. I've lost control of my life. The CBR might not be the most special 600 on the lot, but it's quietly been kicking butt around racetracks for years. Now, if only Honda could sort out their electronic problems on the GP bike, maybe they'd actually start winning races again. Next up, we've got the R6, a bike that is selling so badly that Yamaha decided to pull the street version from production and just sell track motorcycles to a select few lunatics who have a spare 12 grand lying around to buy a brand new track toy. I have a serious question about that. Do you still have to do the break-in miles on that? Are you honestly selling a non-street legal motorcycle and then tell all the track day boys to keep it under 10 grand for 600 miles? Not that the break-in thing really does anything, but just a thought. Anyways, the R6 is putting down 117 horsepower and 45 foot-pounds of torques, which is the second worst set of power figures on the list, and it weighs 419 pounds, which is also the second worst wet weight on the list. Somehow, though, Yamaha managed to make this bike go 162 miles per hour. I guess if you gear a motorcycle tall enough and you have enough aerodynamics, you can go pretty fast with an objectively slow bike. You hear that, Gixxer bros? There's hope for you yet. Keep trying for that 186. I believe in you. Honestly, I'm not sure why I've been so mean to the Suzuki boys lately, but back to the R6. It has the most prototypical power curve of any 600 out there. Take a look at this dyno graph and see how the low down power is basically beginner bike level. That's why people seem to think you can ride one as a beginner bike, but when you get over 10,000 RPM, it's basically a massive surge of power. Oh, but I'm responsible, Yammie, I can keep it under 10. Sure you can, my little squidlet. Sure you can. Don't start on 600s, my dude. And at long last, we arrive at number 1, and if you know anything about anything, you've probably guessed which bike it is. It's the Kawasaki ZX6R. Yep, the Cheater 600, assuming you forgot how bad the Euro bikes on the list cheated. The ZX6R is packing a 636cc inline 4, putting down 127 horsepower and 52 foot-pounds of torque. It's 430 pounds, making it the heaviest 600, but it can still get up to a class-leading 175 miles per hour. If you're going to go and try to get a 600 to hit 186, this is probably the bike to do it on. A tune, an exhaust, a filter, and probably a chain and sprocket setup might get you there. But the only problem is that you'll have to sign up for life as a Kyle. Which one is worse, a Kyle or a Gixxer bro? Trick question, they're the same. One just likes green. One thing that's nice about the ZX6 is the Kawi saw it fit to offer a non-ABS version of the bike, which makes it a lot easier to convert to a track bike or a race bike if you're looking for a new track toy. It's also cheaper, so you can save money for a pipe. Despite my penchant for Daytonas, I'll probably end up on a ZX6R one of these days. They're just that good. Now, honorable mention time. These are 3 motorcycles that are based on older Japanese 600s and aren't designed for super high-end performance, but they're still 600, so I figured I'd include them. Also, you can get them for stupid cheap, and if you're looking for classic inline 4 exhaust note but slightly more comfortable ergos. We'll start off with the Yamaha YZF600R, otherwise known as the Thundercat. It was based on the old R6, and while it was fully fared, it was a little bit more laid back and comfortable. Don't let that fool you though, the Thundercat had a 599cc inline 4 doing 100 horsepower and 49 foot-pounds of torgos, which is solid. But it weighed in at 463 pounds. That said, the bike could get up to 149 miles per hour, which means it would technically outrun a 2021 RS660. The crazy thing is you can get Thundercats for under $4,000. The next bike I wanted to talk about is the Honda CB600F. Yeah, it's not a super sport, but it's still fast and pretty fast. Honda stuck with this inline 4 naked bike for a lot longer than other manufacturers did. In fact, they still make a version of it, though it's using a 650cc inline 4 instead of the one from the CBR600RR. Anyway, the CB600F put down 102 horsepower and 46 foot-pounds of torque and could reach 140 miles per hour. It goes to show how much of a difference aerodynamics can make, seeing as the bike weighs almost the same as the Thundercat. You can find newer model CB600s for around $6,000, but if you go with older models, say around 2007, you're looking at $3,000. If you want my honest opinion, the older models are the way to go here. Yeah, they're cheaper, but the sound they make is way cooler, and they're not as ugly. Wrapping up our honorable mentions list is another 600cc naked bike, and one that is legendarily talked about in the comments section is the Suzuki Bandit 600S. The Bandit is what you get when you want to just purchase a motorcycle. It's got 2 wheels, it's got an engine, it goes and stops. They only made them for a few years towards the end of the 90s, and it was so cheap back in the day, and it was still air-cooled. Think about that. A 599cc inline 4 making 77 horsepower and 40 foot-pounds of torque, and it was air-cooled. It would seem that even back in the day, Suzuki really did not give one single f***. It was half fared like the Phaser 600, but it didn't help too much in the top speed department, only managing a top speed of 129 miles per hour. You can get these for under $3,000 all day, but honestly, if you're looking for an inline 4 half-fared bike, I'd check out the Big Brother Bandit 1200, 1250. Those are really raucous motorcycles. Fact! In 2007, the end of daylight savings time jumped from last Sunday in October to the first Sunday in November. The decision was reportedly influenced by candy lobbyists pushing to get trick-or-treaters an extra hour of daylight. Crazy. Goodbye. Oh, hey, you're still here. I can't believe you made it to the end of the video. Not many people do. Just for you, I have a little treat. Hit this link over here. Check out the next video on the Yammie Noob catalog. What's going to happen in it? I don't really know. Maybe there's a boost in it. Maybe there's some cool wheelies. Maybe there's some fun memes. Probably. Who can say?